It's time for us to now look at the Division 2 competition, which also returns from the Queen's birthday weekend bye, and a massive game coming up. First off, it's Fitzroy Stars take on Mernda. It's a massive game for two reasons. Obviously, the importance for both sides to get a win here, and I mean the winner could sit anywhere from Mernda's sake from third to back down to fifth, and for Fitzroy Stars they can push inside the top two with a victory as well. But also for the Fitzroy Stars, a massive day for their football club, returning to their spiritual home ground. It is the Sir Douglas Nicholls Oval. Their first game there in nearly 20 years, and their first time they're going to play there while being part of the Northern Football League. So it's going to be a great occasion. We ask everyone to get out there and really get behind it. It's a massive day for Fitzroy Stars Football Club, finally getting back onto their home paddock, and you couldn't ask for a bigger game for them to play in at the moment. They're 5 wins and 3 losses, sitting in third place. Mernda's in fifth, 4 and 4. Their percentage is basically identical, so the winner of this game will at the very least sit on top of the other side, but certainly in the context of this season, this game has huge ramifications for both teams.
Yeah, they certainly will. And you also mentioned, before, Samuel, that if they get a win, they could possibly move up the third spot. I'm speaking of Mernda here, and I think they're a really big chance. As Fitzroy Stars, like I said, first time in 5 years playing on that home paddock, so it's going to be a big day for them. I'm going to have to go with Fitzroy Stars, but Mernda, I think, is certainly going to be pretty keen to get the win there.
Certainly, and I think the Mernda will probably hope for maybe the hyper on the day might just slightly put the Fitzroy Stars off the boil, but I'll just go back to their first encounter of the year, and the Fitzroy Stars did really win that game quite well, and their kicking a goal was a letdown throughout, so that margin probably should have been more than what it was. So Mernda would have to turn a lot around, but they are certainly playing better football this time around. Had consecutive wins for the first time during the year, and I mean, you just look at their ladder position, and that game against Hurstbridge could come back and really bite them. They lost it by less than a goal. How did they won it? I mean, given the percentage difference between them and the Fitzroy Stars, 1 goal is not only the 4 points, but just that minor bit of percentage, they'd probably be sitting in third place on the ladder. So that one could be the one that comes back and haunt them. They now need to get one back in the back half of the year, and they'll really be priming themselves for this game. But it is going to be an absolute cracker. It is the Fitzroy Stars taking on Mernda at Sir Douglas Nicholls Oval. North Heidelberg and Whittlesea is an equally massive game. It is. Well, we probably thought this game would be a first versus second encounter after the first time they went and the Doggies got that big win against Whittlesea at Whittlesea by 34 points. But now the Doggies have gone off the boil a little bit. It's first versus fourth. The Doggies have lost consecutive games for the first time in a long time, and this could make it a third straight loss. And given a Mernda win against Fitzroy Stars, if that eventuates, North Heidelberg, by losing on Saturday, would be outside of the top 4. And that is something I'm sure none of us thought we'd be saying at the halfway point of the year. Massive game, lots at stake, and you just think that Whittlesea, given their form, has to go in as the favourites, and also the fact that they probably owe the Dogs one after their round 4 loss.
Yeah, I don't think they'll forget that one. North Heidelberg complete control of that game back at the Whittlesea Showgrounds. As you'd mentioned also, that North Heidelberg, if going on the moon of Fitzroy Stars game, they can actually drop out of the 4. That was unthinkable, unheard of. But I'm going to certainly be going with Whittlesea to win this one. Andrew Fairchild, Paul Harrison's, I think they're going to be too strong in the end for North Heidelberg.
Certainly the form line indicates Whittlesea, but you just get the feeling over the break that the North Heidelberg players would have been, just the importance of this game would have been stressed upon them on their home paddock as well. This is their chance. We mentioned Heidelberg in Division 1, a chance to make a statement. North Heidelberg equally would think it's a chance for them to prove they are again a genuine contender. Obviously, a lot of players coming out, but this is a chance where they can, if they could roll Whittlesea, get 2 and zip against the Eagles, and it just kickstarts their campaign again. But potentially a loss, as we've said, could see them go outside of the top 5. South Morang takes on Diamond Creek in the third game for us to take a look at. And South Morang was a disappointing follow-up to their first win. They were soundly beaten by Mernda in their last start by 95 points. And Diamond Creek is just playing sensational football, arguably the best consecutive football they've played in a long time. And now they're in second place. And if they can get that win and results go their way, they could actually be inside the top 2 by 2 games, which is, at this stage of the year, halfway through, it's going to be or take a fair bit for them to be overhauled, given the fact they've already beaten North Heidelberg twice as well. So the Creek is playing really good footy, just starting to really adapt to football under David Calthorpe, and you'd have to say they're going to be the red-hot favourite against South Morang. Yeah,
they're going to certainly be. Their form has been instrumental. I saw the game against North Heidelberg, and after half-time, they'll just total control there. So South Morang, as you said, the great win against Hurstbridge and then followed up by 95-point loss to Mernda, I think is quite disappointing. I'm going to be going with certainly Diamond Creek for this one, but a big chance for South Morang to really get some respect back.
Indeed, and the final game for us to take a look at in Division 2 is Lalor versus Hurstbridge, and a real danger game here. Form line tell you that Hurstbridge is a favourite. 3 wins and 5 losses. Laylaw is second bottom, 1 win, 7 losses. But having said that, they've been in plenty of those games and those 7 losses. You could argue that they should have beaten North Heidelberg last week or in their last start against Diamond Creek. They were down by 1 point at three-quarter time. Obviously, their more recent game against Whittlesea was really one-sided. They lost by a triple-digit margin, but their form on their home ground hasn't been as bad as their record would suggest. And given the fact that this game is at Laylaw Reserve, it's a real danger game for Hurstbridge. They must win it to keep any finals hopes alive, but you get the feeling this is one game that potentially, if they're not on their game, they could lose it. We saw it happen against South Morang the last time they ventured away from home. So it's important for them to play the footy that they've played through the opening couple of rounds of the year, even last weekend against the Fitzroy Stars, where they got a loss, but it was a really competitive effort. Real danger game here for Hurstbridge for mine.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's extremely danger game for Hurstbridge. If they let's say lose, they could actually be close to the relegation period. They only be like 2 games away from depending on South Morang, of course.
1 game, yeah.
Oh, well, that's right. So I think it's going to be very crucial. And they'll be, I think, 2 games out of the top 4. So they have to win. As for Laylaw, they'll certainly need to get a win there to really get a step away from that relegation period as well. So I'll be going with Hurstbridge, but geez, I think it can really go either way.
No doubt about it. Will I guess mark the halfway point of the year as well. So a massive round 9 coming up. We're going to go to a quick break, and then we're going to take a look at Division 3, where, as we said earlier, the top 3 sides really started to push their premiership credentials with big wins at the weekend. Don't go away. We'll be back after a short break. Thanks for sticking with us. And now a massive round 10 in Division 3 is coming up. As we said before the break, the top 3 sides all had massive wins at the weekend. No game was decided by less than 76 points. It gives you an indication as to how one-sided the footy really was. Obviously, Panton Hill were the ones to get over St Mary's. In the NFL match of the day, Thomastown was far too good for Parkside, and it really started from the first bounce. And at half-time, it was already 11 goals of difference. And then the real bolter was Watsonia, away from home, and not only did they beat Reservoir, but they absolutely smashed them, and you were at that game. And Watsonia has gone from the wooden spooner in 2012 to a genuine premiership threat in 2013.
Yeah, well, seeing the Watsonia Reservoir game at Chris Park, I thought Watsonia, geez, were a real genuine chance, maybe to get 3-4 goal win, but to win by 13 goals away, it's incredible. Lockie Dornoff, outstanding. I spoke to him after the match, and they're pretty pumped up for the rest of the season. I think they're really... Geez, we can almost talk about grand final prospects now for Watsonia after that win. Still,
obviously, a lot of the seasons to be played, but they've had some big wins, beating Thomastown and now smashing Reservoir, so they're firmly entrenched inside the top 4. So at this stage, I know internally they'll be looking at it 1 week at a time, but as an outsider looking in, they're in a really good position, and you have to think that they're very well on their way to finals footy, and given the way they've played against the top sides, they have to be a genuine threat. This weekend's just... It's a huge game, it has to be said. They're at home to the Panton Hill Football Club. It's first versus third on the ladder. The only side inside the top 4 they haven't beaten so far is Panton Hill. Brodie Riccardi kicked 6 goals on the weekend, kicked 13 in the past 2 weeks. Also, Jeremy Bennett took a high-flying grab, but he also kicked 4 goals, so the forward line's functioning, the back line's keeping sides to low scores. Reservoir managing just 11 scoring shots at the weekend. So on all lines, they're playing good footy, but Panton Hill in the past 2 weeks has won by a combined total of 203 points, so you'd have to say that they're in just as good form, and the winner of this game here will... do you say that they become the premiership favourite? Do they? I mean, if Panton Hill wins it, they've got a really good strong hold on first place, but if Watsonia wins it, they've beaten everyone inside the top 4, and they have to be given, I guess, the credit that they would deserve.
Yeah, I'd certainly say that. I wouldn't say Watsonia would be like a premiership favourite even if they do get up over Panton Hill, because I still think they're a little bit inexperienced considering all a lot of the players are just playing with each other for the first time. But if they get it, if they can defeat Panton Hill, and I honestly think they can, I think they can run off their feet at the home ground. So I'll be tipping them. So I think for Lockie Dornoff, geez, it's a big year for him.
I'm going for Panton Hill. I just think they have the big game experience. Last year they had that finals win. Throughout this year they had the letdown against Thomastown, but the game against Reservoir first versus second, they got up for that. And I just think in the long run, their experience might pay dividends. I guess the catch to that is it's a big ground, and Watsonia's got the younger legs, so they could potentially run them off their feet at the weekend for Watsonia. Evans playing his best game of the year. Nathan Hendry was in the best, and Brendan O'Connor kicked his season high, 5 goals in the game. So they're better players playing good footy. So this is just a massive game, and for Watsonia, it's the middle of a really massive 3 weeks. They've already rolled Reservoir. They now take on Panton Hill and then there's Thomastown the week after. So potentially, if they were to win those 2 games, they could go to equal first, and at the same time, 2 big games that they go against them, they're probably back into 4th place as well. But just for them, in the context of their year and the way they're travelling, just a huge fortnight coming up. A massive game awaits this weekend. Heidelberg West returns to the action after sitting out with a bye last weekend, taking on Reservoir. A Reservoir side they nearly had an upset win against last time. They actually led by a couple of goals at 3/4 time. Got overrun by 3 goals, but a lot to take out of that performance, and a lot that I'm sure Derek Shaw will be using again this weekend in the preparation to the game as well. Reservoir, it's just so hard to predict how they'll turn up each week. They've gone loss, win, loss, win, loss in their past 5 games. Haven't really looked like it since they had that bye in round 4, and I mean they'll be the heavy favourites in this game here, but they're not playing the football that we probably came to expect at the start of the year when they were a genuine premiership favourite, and they are quickly losing touch with the top 2 sides. So this is a massive game for them to win, but they're also their percentage has taken a battering given the fact they've had so many big losses in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, Reservoir's percentage is what it's hit about to 88 or something like that now, so it's really hit low, and their form has really been bad. And remembering, as you mentioned, they nearly got done against Heidelberg West. They were down 3/4 time and just got up by 16 points in the end. Derek Shaw did play a little bit of footy also at Reservoir during the mid-90s, so it'd be interesting to see if he can maybe work something out. I'm still going to stick with Reservoir, but Heidelberg West certainly a chance at home.
Well, I reckon you give themselves every chance of causing a boil over here, and as I said, it's just so hard to get a form guide on Reservoir at the moment. They're just so topsy-turvy. I know they had the win against St Mary's the week prior. They looked in genuine trouble in that game, bounced back and found a way to win, but I mean, even at the weekend against Watsonia, it was only Watsonia's poor kicking in the first quarter which probably kept them in the game in the opening half, and then they were blown away thereafter. The final game of this round is... Well, it's a big game, and it marked a special occasion as well. It's St Mary's taking on Thomastown. It is the first time they'll play for the Paul Hopper Cup. Of course, Paul sadly passed away late last year. He was a vice president of St Mary's, a committee member as well, also a former committee member of the Thomastown Football Club. So it will be an emotional occasion. I'm sure they've played earlier this year, but it's the first time they're going to play for this cup. And Thomastown won the first battle between the 2 sides earlier this year. They won that game by, I think it was 60 odd points going back, and now at the weekend again playing some good footy. I reckon their past 2 weeks have been their best 2 efforts of the year. I spoke to Steve Krastevsky after last weekend's game, and he just alluded to the fact they have to play a consistent 4-quarter effort, which he just feels they haven't quite achieved so far this year. But at the weekend they were far too good for Parkside. Conversely, St Mary's didn't kick a goal after the 5-minute mark of the second quarter, and they're looking for a much improved effort.
Yeah, as for Thomastown, you'd mentioned that I don't think they've really hit their straps yet. I think once they do, they're going to be a real threat for the flag this season. As I say, Mary's, definitely don't want to do it for Paul Hopper. Rest in peace to a great man, and I certainly hope they can produce the win there. I'm going to be going with Thomastown, but I think it will be a close battle there.
Yeah, it's a game that I'm sure that St Mary's Footy Club's really going to get themselves up for, and I mean Thomastown, they're good players, are playing good footy. Josh Bear he was magnificent, I thought, on the weekend. Best of field for mine. Michael Curry looked dangerous. He kicked 3 goals. He probably deserved more. He missed a couple early on, gave a few off as well. And I mean, they've had a bit of a rejig of their forward line, and they've thrown Michael Manley back into the back line, and he's arguably the best centre half back in the competition. Takes so many marks, starts so many attacks, and allows for the runners to be released as well, because he brings them into play. So they are a genuine threat, and as you say, they're starting to hit their straps. They are becoming a serious contender, and they're already in second spot, so they're in a really good position to take out a double chance coming into the final series. A massive weekend of action. Make sure you get out to your local ground and check it all out. Of course, you can catch all the news at www.nfl.org.au. There's live scores throughout the afternoon on Saturdays as well. You can go to the website to get those, also on your mobile, m.nfl.org.au. We thank you for your time this evening, and we look forward to being back again next weekend. A massive week of action coming up. Can't wait to have a look at all the action on Saturday afternoon.